Chapter 26, Rape. About an hour had passed when we heard a knock on the door. It was Morena and Blanca. Blanca and I quickly continued where we left off before my mission. Loco and Morena got up and went to another room. I couldn't believe how easy it was to get laid with girls that were in gangs or hung around with them. It seemed like the more violent and criminally active a guy was, the easier it was to get whatever girl you wanted. Blanca took off her top but refused to take off her pants. That didn't stop me. I kept trying to completely undress her, but to no avail. After wrestling with her for a while, I got mad, called her a prick-teasing bitch, and told her to get up and get out. Blanca was looking for her bra while I was calling her every name in the book. Morena came out of the other room and yelled at me to stop disrespecting Blanca. I yelled back that if the bitch didn't intend to give it up, she should not have teased me. Morena saw that Blanca was half naked and told her that if she was woman enough to tease, she better be woman enough to please. If not, she was going to be dealt with for disrespecting me. Enticing me with promises of sex and then not following through was disrespectful and would not be tolerated. Morena went back into the room with Loco while Blanca just sat there staring at me with tears rolling down her face. I felt sorry for her, but didn't have any intention of letting her off the hook. I began undressing her. She whined and whispered, "Please don't, I'm still a virgin." If I had been sober, I probably would have had pity for her and left her alone. The fact that I was high, combined with my arousal, made me take advantage of the situation. I took Blanca's virginity as she lay there crying and begging me not to. After it was all over, she got up crying and went to the bathroom. She returned looking for her clothes. I grabbed her, laid her down, and had sex with her again. I was becoming an animal with no consideration for anyone's feelings. What happened between Blanca and me was rape. The next morning, Blanca wouldn't even look at me. I kissed her on the cheek and cupped her breast. She didn't pull back or complain, but all along she lay there with no emotion whatsoever. I was sober now, and I cared about what she was feeling. I realized it was a little too late, but I tried to talk to her anyway. It took a while, but she finally opened up and said what was on her mind. I thought that now that it was all over, Blanca would accept it, but I was wrong. She belittled me as best she could. "You're not a man," she said in a soft, stern voice. "Real men don't do shit like that." After she finished, I felt like a total asshole. I apologized and even shed some tears, but it was too late. I tried to make her feel better by asking her to be my girlfriend. She said no, but then changed her mind. I guess she figured since I was her first lover, she might as well try to like me. I was taking the blame for everything that had happened, but she had finally admitted that she was also at fault. Blanca confessed that the drinking and smoking had affected her judgment. She said she wasn't really a virgin, but that she had never had any intention of letting things go so far. She vowed never to drink or use drugs again. She knew that if she had not been intoxicated, the whole incident would have never taken place. I didn't like Blanca. I didn't find her attractive. I didn't even want her as a friend, but I asked her to be my girlfriend because I felt sorry for her. What we had was emotionless sex fueled by the need to conquer. At noon, members of the Kings began to arrive at the clubhouse. Pito came in with a couple of queens. One of them attracted my attention. It became pretty obvious that the feeling was mutual because of the way we just stared at each other. I tried to ignore the girl to show respect for Blanca. After all, I was her boyfriend. The girl was called Cubana. She had caramel-looking skin, long black hair, and the biggest brown eyes I had ever seen. She had a beautiful body, but it was her eyes that caught my attention. The weed I was smoking began to take effect, and although I was very aware of Blanca's presence, I could not keep myself from staring at Cubana. Cubana did nothing to avoid our eyes meeting, even though she saw Blanca kiss me several times. As soon as Blanca walked away from me, Cubana came over to where I was and started a conversation. She asked me while I was staring at her, and if I liked what I saw. Yes, I answered. By this time I was pretty high. Blanca came back and sat next to us, but I ignored her. Blanca finally stepped between us, called me an asshole, and walked out. Cubana laughed at Blanca and said, "I guess you're single now." I spent most of the day talking to Cubana and trying to get to know her. I found out that she had been a runaway since she was 13. When I asked why she left home, she refused to talk about it and became very upset when I kept pushing the subject. Throughout our conversation, Cubana made a point to emphasize that just because she was a runaway did not mean she was easy. She said she was still a virgin and she planned on staying that way. I thought to myself, yeah, right, that's what Blanca just said. She began telling me a story about how she had stabbed a guy who was once her so-called boyfriend when he got carried away and tried to take advantage of her. He swore he was going to get a piece, Cubana said matter-of-factly, until he felt that blade in him. I knew she was trying to get a message across, but I ignored it. Words didn't mean a thing to me. I just reached out and kissed her. She kissed me back, and then warned me to be careful and respect her, or I would live to regret it. More kings began arriving at the clubhouse. They kept telling me that the police were looking for me and that the gangster that was hit by the van had died. The seriousness of the fact that I was being sought by the police for what would probably be a murder charge did not set in. I actually found it funny. I was pretty high and too busy impressing Cubana with my tough attitude to realize the seriousness of my situation. It seemed as if I was becoming cold-hearted. I even suggested that we throw a party to celebrate the death of a rival gang member. The pleasure was all mine, I exclaimed. I can't wait to do it again. Cubana was very impressed. Night set in and I still had not left the clubhouse. I was high as a kite playing puppy love games with Cubana. The clubhouse was full of kings and queens. There were a lot of them there that I had never seen before, but I met them all that night. At about 1 a.m., Cubana and I were sitting by the window smoking a joint when we heard a commotion outside. We looked out and saw a couple of kings running across Armitage, headed north up Kedzie. We heard somebody yell out, "Gangster," and about 4 gunshots went off. Local was in another room at the time. When he heard the shots, he came running out with the gun in his hand. I took the gun from him and went outside. Once outside, I looked down Kedzie and saw the 2 kings ducking behind a car. I also saw 3 gangsters. 2 of them were pointing their guns in the direction of the kings. I crossed Armitage towards the gangsters, making sure I wasn't noticed. I peeked out from behind the building on the corner to see where the gangsters were. The 2 gangsters doing the shooting were standing in the middle of the sidewalk, while the other one stood in between 2 parked cars. I jumped out from behind the building and opened fire. I didn't aim at any particular target. I didn't even know how many bullets I had. I just pulled the trigger. The 2 kings took advantage of the attention I attracted and ran for safety. Pito showed up with a shotgun. I got out of his way and he opened fire. I heard one of the gangsters scream out in pain, and then 2 shots went off in retaliation. It seemed as if we were in some kind of movie, only this was real. Nobody ran away. We just kept shooting at each other with no mercy. All of a sudden somebody yelled, "La jala, la jala, the police, the police." Then, and only then, did the shooting stop and everyone retreated. Pito and I ran back into the clubhouse before the police saw us. Looking out from a window, we could see the cops searching every place a human could hide. We also saw them put the gangster who had been shot inside an ambulance. The paramedics were also attending to an innocent bystander who got hit by a stray bullet. Gang crime detectives stopped a couple of kings who showed up at Armitage and Kedzie. After searching them and roughing them up a little, they handcuffed them, put them in their squad car, and drove away. After that, everything was quiet. The only people to be seen were some police officers who kept cruising the area and a couple of drunks. Inside the clubhouse, everybody settled down in whatever corner that they could find and decided to spend the night there. Cubana and I lay down on the sofa, and the next thing I knew, it was Sunday morning. Pulling the trigger was becoming second nature to me. I didn't know how to load or unload guns, and I had no idea that they came in different sizes. All I knew was how to point and pull the trigger. Pulling the trigger was not only a way of enhancing my image, it also improved my chances of getting girls. Girls loved me. They gave me attention, affection, and sex because I pulled the trigger without hesitation.